Hi, I'm Kaiwen. My research title is The Everyday Foodscapes as Cultural Landscape in Paddy's Market, Haymarket, the Diasporic Continuity in Wet Market. This study explores how Paddy's Market in Sydney Chinatown preserves the cultural essence of Asian wet market through spatial, sensory, and social hybridity. The Haymarket has long been a hub for Chinese and Southeast Asian communities. Within the Paddy's Market functions not just as a commercial space, but as a cultural one, where the spatial organization, language, routine, and ingredients sustain the memory and identity. There are two concepts frame the study. First, hybridity. The coexistence and negotiation between the traditional wet market culture and the modern Australian regulation, which is observed spatially, socially, and aesthetically in this report. Second, the diasporic continuity showing how migrant communities maintain their identity and belonging through everyday practices. Together, they explain how Paddy's market sustain the traditions while adapting to the local regulation. Spatially, the linear zoning and modular stalls create a gradient from lively produce areas to enclosed meat and seafood zones, allowing the smooth circulation while preserving the traditional wet market qualities. The fruits and vegetable stalls feature a narrow arch and generous display that invite the interaction within their boundaries. The wide walkways accommodate the shoppers, while compact vendors aisles support the efficiency. Behind the scene, the service corridors and storage areas ensure the smooth logistics without it disrupting the customer. The mid zones uses the linear stainless steel counters and glass display, emphasizing hygiene and efficiency. Prepackaged products reflect the Australian retail standards while maintaining the transparency and order. At the seafood zones, the ice boxes and the drainage platforms support the wet operation. The customers use tongs to select produce, while the counters separate the wet and dry zones, blending the traditional practice with modern hygiene. Through this layout, the Paddy's Market reinterprets the Asian wet markets within the Australian regulation, creating a space where browsing and selection sustain a communal intimacy and the diasporic continuity. Sensory experience is vital in wet market. The humidity, odor, and overlapping voices evoke the familiar Asian market chaotic atmosphere, reinforcing the sense of belonging. Dampness, especially in the seafood zone, is managed through the top floor and drainage. Comparing the dry produce and the meat zone with the humid seafood zones, they have shaped various movement and behavior, letting the communities to remember their familiar market experience. The odor of fresh herbs, meat, and seafood evoke the collective memory. The modern ventilation and the waste management maintain the hygiene, yet this scent preserve a link to home. Across all zones, the crowds often clustered around the display platform, drawn by the curiosity and the spectacles of fresh produce and active exchanges, fostering a memory-rich and communal atmosphere. Together, the dampness, odor, and crowds create a sensory landscape that preserves the diasporic familiarity while adapting to the Sydney's regulated environment. Socially, the Paddy's market linguistic diversity shapes a dynamic rhythm. The vendors, staff, and customers interact in Mandarin, Cantonese, English, and Bahasa Indonesia, creating the richness of communication and cultural familiarity. Most vendors in Paddy's market are Indonesian Chinese, creating a multilingual space in Mandarin, Indonesian, and English. The simple greetings and the trade phrase echo through the aisles, turning the market into a lively diasporic hub where the language, identity, and space connect. Language at Paddy's Market guides both trade and identity. The vendors switch between Mandarin, Cantonese, English, and Bahasa Indonesia, reflecting the diasporic ties and creating a layered sphere of communication. At Paddy's Market, the daily routines shape how people interact. In the morning, the staff handle the stock and chat in Indonesian. And once the market opens, the vendors greet the customer, give advice, and share cooking tips, mixing the friendly hospitality with Australian retail rules while keeping the feel of traditional Asian wet market. The Paris market shows how diasporic communities maintain an identity in a foreign context through multilingual interaction and daily routine. It blends familiar Asian market rhythm with the Australian regulation, creating a space where cultural belonging and adaptation coexist. Within Paris market, the food becomes more than a product. It serves as a bridge between the homeland and host country. The stalls filled with the imported produce and cultural symbols transform the market into an edible archive of diasporic life. The imported ingredients such as the exotic fruits, specialty meat, seafood, and the symbolic items like lucky bamboo sustain the culinary continuity, emotional belonging, and transnational identity. The decoration like red lanterns, lucky cats, and the tangerine display provide a visual cues of prosperity, while the handwritten Chinese and Indonesian labels encode the memory and identity, transforming the market into a diasporic patchwork of everyday practice. Together, these elements, the products, decorations, and labels, allow the community to maintain the taste of home while navigating a new context. In conclusion, the Paddy's Market is a living archive of diasporic adaptation. The spatial, social, and aesthetic hybridity from the store layouts and multilingual exchange to a symbolic decoration and imported products preserve and reshapes the Asian market culture within the Sydney multicultural context. As the Daniel Boyarin and Jonathan Boyarin stated, the diasporic cultural identity teach us that the culture are not preserved by being protected from mixing, but probably can only continue to exist as a product of such mixing. That's all for my presentation. Thank you for listening and attention.